I was in a active shooting event. I made it out of that unscathed. I went from being kind of intimidated or timid to I'm ready to make this an empire. To say that there's one dead giveaway that somebody's being trafficked is probably not realistic. I'm a guy that likes to go hunting. I like riding dirt bikes. I like skydiving. I like wakeboarding. I like skiing. I've never once thought about women's luxury until that day. And the good Lord put it on my heart and said, this is what you're here for.
What if the bag you carry could also carry hope? Today's guest, Jared Lilje, a former U.S. Air Force Special Operations pilot, founded Jared and Christoff, a man-made made in USA luxury handbag brand created to fund the fight against human trafficking. And I just want to say good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, Lee.
I purposefully kept this intro, this bio, super short so that you can give us a little bit. I don't want to read between the lines and assume certain things from your military career or your efforts going into what you're doing now. Before we get started, this is Hindsight, the podcast, and just a simple question. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's not, but why did you join the Air Force in the first place? What was your motivation?
It was 1991 and Desert Storm just finished up, and I wanted to do something bigger, be a part of something bigger. And I thought I'll just put college on hold. If I ever go, I didn't even have dreams going, really. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I wanted to serve. I wanted to do something bigger. And I thought joining the Air Force was, or any of the branches was a good idea at that time. So that's why I joined, purely out of service.
Purely out of service. I tell you what, I don't have a similar story, but I do remember watching TV one day, and I saw the soldiers, because I joined the Army. I saw the soldiers getting on the airplane, helicopter, whatever it was, and it was going over to Iraq, and I was like, wow, that's kind of intense, right? So a few weeks later, I went to the recruiters. I signed up, and then a few months later, I was in basic training. So mine was more so, I think I needed more discipline at the time, right? So I went in, joined, and the rest is history.
Right. Well, thanks for your service, Lee. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for your service. Right. I always appreciate the Air Force, especially being in the Army, because you guys always took care of everything. So we appreciate everybody, right? So I am the guy who thank you, Marines, for going in and kicking butt before we get here. Thank you, Air Force, for watching over us. And thank you, Navy, for clearing the way. So for us to get here. So everything, everybody works together. It's a nice system. So
absolutely.
But here we go. Special operations. It had to be intense.
It was intense at times. It was awesome.
I bet though. Can you talk about one of the more memorable experiences, and what did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I have so many memorable experiences. But being a special operations pilot, and I started off as a mechanic. So just to give you a little bit of background, I started off enlisted as a mechanic. Spent 9 years doing that. Finished school while I was active duty. Got picked up to fly airplanes. Went and flew C-5s and C-17s first, and then finished my career in the special operations world, flying that airplane right behind me is one of them. And it was absolutely intense. But one of the stories that always sticks out is I was on an operation in Africa, and then we were operating between South Sudan and Central African Republic and Democratic Republic of the Congo. This is 2012 timeframe, so that you can look in the news and see what was going on over there. But anyway, my flight doc wanted to come fly with us one day, and so I said, "Yeah, jump on, we'll take you out." And flight docs like to fly with the pilots to see what they go through. And we got stuck out for a while and had to come into a little dirt strip and really thick triple canopy jungle. And so it's a small little road, and we're on night vision goggles and night vision goggles only because we were coming in unannounced. The Green Beret team that was on the ground was not expecting us
Yeah.
because they thought we just missed them that day, but we just got held up in a little further north. And so it took us until after dark to get in there, and it was pretty late, maybe about 10 o'clock at night. So the Green Beret team was already settling down. So we came in and came in completely blacked out into a dirt road. And she said, "That's the last time I'm flying with you guys." We got her home. We got her back to our safe house in Uganda, and she was over it. She said, "Okay, I'm done flying with you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are crazy." But
Yeah.
no, it was absolutely the best flying I've ever experienced in my life, was being part of special
Yeah.
operations.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
tell you, um, I was in an aviation unit. And the reason why I bring this up is because, when you go over when you go overseas and you're in a war environment, right? You know all of this.
Hmm.
Um, the unit that I was in, they flew like Cessna small planes, and it was
Hmm.
for VIPs, going from here to there, either from
Hmm.
the States to the war front or just over there, whatever, right?
Right.
So when I first got to this unit, I had to fly somewhere. Can't remember. But we were coming back and we landed. The plane was real high. I don't know
Hmm.
how to talk pilot talk.
Right.
It
Real
was
high
real
works.
high, and then it turned, and it just went straight down,
Uh huh.
and then it landed.
Yeah. Yeah. Good times, isn't it?
No, that was not good times because I was not prepared for that. You know what I'm saying? But I understand now, after the fact, right? Or in hindsight,
Right.
you know that you didn't have a lot of room to maneuver in those war areas. You had a certain area that was
Right.
green, or that was, what you can speak to talk better than I can,
Yeah.
right? But
So what I can tell you what he was probably doing, and not being your pilot, I can only make an assumption based on your description, was he was
yeah.
staying above what we call the weapons engagement zone for certain threats that are out there. So small arms fire,
Mm.
if you stay above 3,000 feet, you're going to be all right, typically. And there's some other things that he might have been worried about. So he stayed up as high as he could, as long as he could, and then put the airplane. And you said it was a 172.
No, it was. I don't know what it was. Like I said, I don't. It was like a Cessna, so it was a small
Okay, so
plane. Pro-
but with a propeller on it.
yes, this one had
Yeah.
a propeller.
So what he most likely did is put it into a slip, what we call a forward slip, where you put a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
cross controls in it to put on a bunch of drag and
Mm-hmm.
shove the nose down, and it'll sink like a rock. And you'll see that. What's funny you say that, because it's kind of a dirty trick not to at least warn you, like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, since you're right there.
Yeah.
A really great friend of mine is a retired Master Chief out of the Navy SEAL teams, and when we served together in Afghanistan, um, we happened to. I was with the Army for a year, and him and I happened to serve together at a camp in Afghanistan, and we talked about different things that go on. And I talked,
Mm-hmm.
he said he hates getting shot at in airplanes. And I said, well, I hate getting shot at on the ground, because at least
I
I can
know.
move airplanes quickly. Um, and then he talked about how it used to upset him, or upset, I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if you can really scare Navy SEALs or what you can do, but he didn't really like being in airplanes when they started going through really aggressive maneuvers like that. And he
Yeah.
said it always, if we're doing an infiltration for something, it would make him pause a second to get his legs back or whatever, right, and get his
Mm,
bearing back together once they got on the ground. And so, as a Air Force special operations pilot, I started taking that into account when I'd start teaching combat tactics to the guys and
yeah.
say, hey, remember who you got in the back. They're not used to flying these aggressive maneuvers where we use it all the time. And so you're not going to get me, air sick. You're not going to get me, worried about it, because I
Mm,
understand the maneuver we're doing. So
yeah.
do what you need to do to be safe and get everybody in, but don't fly with your fangs out just because it's fun. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that was a great feedback I got from one of my buddies we
Mm,
supported on the ground. It's just like, hey,
yeah.
can I complete my mission and fly a good tactical approach for him without getting those guys worried about what we're doing up front, right? Because you don't want the same guys worrying about what you're doing. I want them to get on the ground, take care of business, and then we'll come pick them up. You know what I mean? That was kind
Yeah.
of the plan behind it. So
Yeah, and just my 2 cents, I'd rather get in a plane any day than a helicopter because those helicopter pilots are ridiculous. But, that's neither here nor there, right?
yeah, hey, I love them. Takes all of us to get the job done.
Yeah, it does, it does. I love them on the ground, hate it in the air. But, for a s hey, but seriously, for a service member, you
Mhm.
did your thing, and now you had to get out. So, leaving the military, what was your 90-day playbook for finding purpose, language, and a viable path? Like, how did you know it was time for you to get out? Did you choose to get out? Like, how did
Yeah,
that look for you
yeah. It
transitioning?
was a 25-year career, and I knew it was time to get out. It was, I think, people say you'll know when it's time, and
Mhm,
after 25 years, that's a good chunk of my life, and I felt like I needed to go on and do something else. And as far as a plan, you go through the transition classes, and you know, uh, I wasn't worried at all. I
mhm,
know I'm kind
mhm,
of an anomaly. I didn't
mhm.
struggle on the transition. I wasn't worried about the transition. I didn't have a job when I got out. I was just like, you know what? I had a great career. I've been really fortunate and very blessed. And at the time, I had a small company teaching people how to fly. It was just an aviation training company that I had started just out of, I just kind of fell into it backwards. Some people wanted
Right,
training.
right.
And so I started training those people. And then it just attracted more and more and more. So I stayed busy flying, but I never thought, well, this is my path. I'm going to be an aviation training company owner. But I knew it was
Mhm.
time to get out. And so I was happy to not do anything really career wise for a year. And I was just going to work my training company and just take a year to, you know, I don't know,
Yeah,
make that transition.
I
It
hear you,
was,
I hear
it,
you.
I wasn't scared of it. I was actually looking very forward to it. After a couple of days, though, I got a call from a former commander of mine who happened to be
Mhm,
working for a company that rescued kids that had been sold into trafficking.
mm,
And he called up and he said, "We need a pilot." And I said, "This sounds like great work. I'm happy to volunteer my time." So that's how I got introduced into the anti-trafficking mission, was through him. Um, but not every mission needs a pilot. And so, I would
right.
call once I figured, hey, this is fantastic. And I really thought this is a great mission to be a part of. This is my calling. Um, and I'm going to throw everything I can at it. So I'd call between him and the CEO of the company, I'd call them about once a week and ask if they've got anything for me. And
Mhm,
not yet,
mhm.
we're working on it. Not yet, we're working on it. And they would, there was something that was in the works, and they had to make sure they had enough money to get it done, right? Because they're a
Yeah,
nonprofit, and they've got to raise the funds to go rescue the kid. And sometimes those can cost up to in excess of $80,000 for one rescue mission. Um, so I realized very quickly that, hey, we need to, having me as a pilot on standby to go do one mission at a time. Um, isn't nearly as impactful as me generating revenue to
mm,
send to these types of, not only this company but others, to go out and provide education for prevention, to go out and do the rescue missions and to do rehabilitation, because once you get somebody back, there's rehabilitation that has to happen, and there's counseling that has to happen, and all of that is has costs associated with it. And if nonprofits taking care of it, wouldn't it be nice if we had for-profit companies that written in their DNA was, we are an anti-trafficking company at heart, and we make
yeah,
beautiful luxury handbags, or we're in that women's luxury space, to take all the attention that's in luxury and women's luxury. I mean, you see the commercials, you see the Instagrams, you see TikToks. Everybody loves luxury stuff, and they always show it, and they always like to talk about it. So why not take this big spotlight that's in the luxury industry and shine it into the darkness, which is trafficking, and help people that really need it through the products we sell. So that's
right.
that's the Reader's Digest version, Lee, of how I got to Air Force Special Operations pilot, retired, to designing luxury handbags and now selling them.
So how did you make that leap? I know you say you see the commercials and all this. Like, how did
Mhm.
you make the leap? I need to make money. I see this luxury. Was it one
Mhm.
luxury commercial that came on and it was like a aha, huh? This is it. How did that come
No,
about? Right?
no, the aha moment. This was it's a funny story, but this aha moment, I happened to be at the same time I was ready to volunteer my piloting time to the rescue company. I happened to be working for a private family flying their Gulfstream jet.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we were at dinner one night and sitting at the dinner. They were uh, they're a very generous family, very nice, and always invited us pilots to dinner with them. So we're enjoying dinner one night, and the topic of handbags comes up, and
Mm.
one of the people had a $25,000 handbag, and I had never heard of this in my life. Right? I thought
Yeah.
a Louis Vuitton purse at like $2,000 was like the most you could ever find. And so I asked her, and she was very kind. She got up and went to the end of the table and picked up this bag and handed it to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the end of the table and it was full of nothing but luxury handbags. And
Mm.
that seat at the end of the table full of luxury handbags. I don't know if they were all the same brand, but this one happened to be a Birkin bag by Hermes. And I looked
Mm-hmm.
at it and it was, retail value was $25,000 and increasing in value. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought, my goodness, uh, yeah, I can do this. I can make this. And right then, Lee, um, it hit me: designs, manufacturing processes, you know, different ways to try to work our marketing strategies. So it wasn't me. My brain doesn't think like that. I'm a guy that
Yeah.
likes,
Yeah.
hunting. I like riding dirt bikes. I like skydiving.
Yeah.
I like wakeboarding. I like skiing. Uh, I've never once thought about women's luxury, right?
Right.
Until that
Right.
day. And the good Lord put
Yeah.
it on my heart and said, "This is what you're here for," you know? And so
Yeah.
think to yourself, you're sitting there and just my brain flooded with these design ideas. And they just came in and I'm like, okay. And I kind of looked to the sky and I'm like, really? Handbags?
Yeah.
Handbags is
Yeah.
where I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be. So,
Yeah.
but I was, you know what? I started doing it and,
Mhm.
kind of started dipping my toe in it. I can't say I went full force into it. I didn't have
Okay.
the faith at that point. Um, but I started to dip my toe in it, start to draw, and I'm no drawer. I'm no artist. But I
Yeah.
gave it my best and I'm like, okay, here's some designs and this is what's on my mind.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it doesn't have to be me. I have the good Lord puts everybody in place that needs to be. I have two friends that are fantastic artists, and I talked to
Mm.
them about what my ideas were, and they were able to sketch out what I actually saw in my mind versus
Right.
what my hand can deliver.
Yeah, I
So
know. It
uh, they they gave me a visual that I could share with other people. And at that point, it was just
Right.
one door at a time, one step at a time. Um,
Yeah.
and it made me realize that okay, this can happen. But again, I was still. I mean, how do you go from being a special operator to getting into women's luxury and
Mhm.
not having a little bit of doubt in yourself? Like, what am I doing? What am I
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
And there happened to be a day that I was in a active shooting event, and
Oh, wow.
I made it out of that with
Yeah.
unscathed. And I thought that was the day that I decided to go. You know what? Put all your faith in what God's told
Yeah.
you to do, and push the
Wow.
throttles all the way up, and still leave them there and get it done.
Yeah.
And that was a huge changing point for me. And I went from being kind of intimidated or timid to I'm ready to move on and make this an empire that does good in the world. And that's really how it
Wow.
happened. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, um, that's what happened.
That's not that's not crazy at all, Jared. I tell you, I was just talking to a gentleman and we were talking about the illusion of time,
Uh-huh.
right? And just believing. So you said you went into it timidly, you had a little self-doubt.
Yeah.
You stuck your toe in, right? And then you had this event. And then you
Yeah.
realize, you know what? I may not have gotten out of this event, and all of this stuff that I have in my head, all of this good that I want to put out there into the world
Yeah.
would never make it. Right. And
Yeah.
so that thrusts you into that momentum that you're going with now. Right.
Yeah. And
And
really it was, I think even more than that was I
mm,
looked back, I reflected that day, that evening when I got to my hotel, I reflected that day and I thought all the times that I've been in bad situations and I got out of them and I'm
mm,
a whole person, you know, and
yeah.
I thought God's really protected me and he's asked me to
Mm,
do this and it's time to deliver. It's time to be obedient and it's time to get after it.
I like it.
Because he through all the combat and everything that I've ever been through, uh, you know, sometimes you think, I'm just good or, the training worked. And really I look back, I'm like, no, that was God's hand on my life. And it's time
Mm,
to deliver what he's asked me to deliver. He's kept me to here. It's my turn and I've got to
mm,
do what he's asked me to do. And that changed the
yeah.
attitude. That changed from being timid to aggressively pursuing it and
I like it.
talking about it and not worrying about, hey, that I don't have experience in here because as God is my CEO of this company, this is his company, not mine. Um, he's the one giving me the ideas. He's the one opening the doors. What do I need to worry about? My
Mm,
provision will be met in the battlefield. Get after it. And that's
yeah.
how I take it now. So,
Yeah. What a, that's a great story. That's a great story. And I appreciate you sharing that. Um, what happens from the special force operation or special operations? Do they, what, things that you learned during your time in
mhm.
the service, how do they show up in your design and your operations for the company you're in now?
uh, so the bags we design are, are have
Uh,
something.
first of all, first of
Sure.
all, they're beautiful. They're
Oh, thank you.
beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
saw the website. The
Appreciate it.
website is beautiful as well. But go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I wanted the bags to have something of me in there. So they have everyone's based on something in aviation history. Um, and it's not apparent when you just pick it up, but there's a airplane design somewhere in this bag, and we're getting ready to update our website. So I'll send you some links if you don't mind when we're done that you can take a look at the new website once it comes out. But it shows the history and the design process that I went through to get to where we are. Um, as far as the special operations or military in general, really, I think uh, what that taught me was to stay at it. Don't quit. The
Yeah.
quitting's not an option. We're going to get this done. We have a mission and we will see it through. It's not something that we just give up on because it's hard.
Mm,
Everything's going to be hard at some point, and we're going to have the tenacity to stick through it even when things look bleak. I think that's probably the biggest thing that came through for me and my service, especially in special operations. Um, yeah, we're given some of the biggest tasks and some of the biggest hurdles. And in my civilian life, what could be a bigger hurdle than breaking into the women's fashion industry with luxury handbags? You know,
yeah.
uh, but
Yeah.
it's the right mission and I think it's the right product to shine light on this, and it gives women an opportunity to carry a beautiful piece of you know leather artwork and
Hmm. Hmm.
be a part of a mission. So yeah, no, it's I think that to answer the question though, I think it's the idea that we're not going to stop.
So you get out the military. You ain't had
Mhm.
no fear. You were good to go. Your mind was clear. Everything was perfect, right? But
But I don't know if it was perfect. I just wasn't worried.
tell us about a painful misstep in a lesson that you still use today. Do you have any of
Um,
those?
yeah, there's been. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
but probably the most painful thing that I dealt with after I retired. Do you have children, Lee?
Yes.
So was in the process of raising my youngest daughter. Um, I was gone a lot and
Mm,
I
yeah.
wasn't maybe the the softest person that you could land on if you're having problems. Very much a, you know, hey, fix it. You need to make these
Mhm.
better decisions and things like that. Any teenager that would go through those stuff, you know. Um, so I don't know that I really knew how to be a good dad to my youngest
Mhm.
daughter. You know, the boys were a little different, um, but I don't know that, you know, my background in the military did anything to soften me to help her in her struggles as a teenager, which drove her away, and she ended up
Mhm.
running away.
Mm.
Uh, and for a while, uh, we kind of had eyes on her where she was, and then she went completely gone, and I got word that she may have left the state. And at that point, uh, she was probably a runaway for, I think, maybe that point maybe 2.5 months, almost 3 months. And um, when I heard she left the state, I started worrying about trafficking. You know, when I had
Mhm.
people telling me where she was, you know, every couple of days, hey, she's here, she's okay, she's here, she's okay. I was giving her her room and not trying to invade her space because she ran away for a reason, you know. So I was trying to play
Right.
that card the best I could. And then when everybody lost eyes on her and she completely went underground, that's when I called my boss, the CEO of the rescue company, and I said, "We need help."
Mhm.
The police department and the missing persons report have have resulted in nothing. She's still missing, but now we think she's gone, and I'm worried about the potential for her being trafficked. So uh, he put all his resources on it, located her, and she was recovered within 3 days from me making that
Mm.
call. So
Yeah.
that was, but that was a, you know, super stressful time, you know,
Yeah.
because, you know, I, not that I tried to treat her like one of the guys I worked with if they're having trouble, but, you know, trying to take a very, I don't know, a hard line, I guess, on certain issues, you know,
Mhm.
curfews are curfews, you know, and
Right.
whatever other teenage things that you can get into. I didn't flex on any of it. And I guess I didn't really have conversations on giving her
Mhm.
an opportunity to express what she needed to. It was like, no is no. And this is not up for a debate, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was, that was probably the hardest time of my life, you know, when she went missing and nobody knew where she was. And you know, I'm wondering if, you know, the worst has happened. That's why I called my boss,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But she
Right.
went through some real trials during that time. And
Mhm.
it makes me even more passionate for what our mission is behind Jake Christoph now. We
Mhm.
use resources that other people have access to. And fortunately, I was already in the industry and I had a ton of contacts. So I had a leg up on everybody. But
Mhm.
she had to go through rehabilitation services and things like that. And, you know, the last thing I want a parent or a dad to worry about is if you have a child that's gone through what she went through or even worse, and then get back and they're in rehab and counseling and trying to get their life back together. Last thing I want you to worry about as a father is how is this getting paid for, right?
Mm.
I want you
Mhm.
to know that there's companies like our companies that are going to go out there and make sure these services are provided because it's not cheap. You know, people need help and it costs money to get it done. And, you know, that's, I think the stress of going through what a family goes through already, and then to have a financial burden on top of it is just a terrible thing, you know. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
just the stress of your kid being gone and you not knowing if you're ever going to see him again,
Yeah.
it'll break you. And I can't even say it
Yeah.
without, you know, getting a lump in my throat, going back to the days
Yeah.
of how I felt and starting to shake about, you know, it was the worst I've ever gone through. Um,
Wow.
so anyway, that's, you know, we could sit and tell my life story. I could tell you about a bunch of bad stuff, but that was worst. Anything happening to my kids is worst. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that. I really
yeah,
do, Jared. And you brought up something about, people having to worry after going through all of that about the
mhm.
cost. So could you tell me just a little bit more? Let's talk a little bit more about Jay Christoph. Like
Okay.
I know the purpose, but just tell us a little bit about the makeup and what you guys actually do.
Well, we're a really small team because we're a startup. We've not even been open a year yet. The
Mhm,
end of December, we'll have been open a year. We opened on December 27th. So, but as far as the makeup of who we are, I never let the mission out of our mind. You can see us on social media, and we
mhm,
don't necessarily blow up what the mission is to everybody, right? Because what I don't want people to do is feel bad when they look at a J. Christoph bag, or feel guilty, or feel anything
mm,
that this is going on. I want them to find uh, the luxury and the beauty in these bags, and understand there's a heritage behind these bags too, right? Because the bags reflect me as and
mhm,
my life as I went through my aviation career. Um, and I try to express that in the design of these bags. What inspired me, and we've just designed two new bags um, that are based on different airplanes that I think people, I'm hoping people find beautiful. Um,
mhm,
and so we'll
mhm.
produce those and see how much traction they get. But the idea is, everybody on the team, are we supporting the values of what started this brand?
Yeah, yeah.
We never want to, we want to use beautiful women in all of our advertising, but we never want to exploit anything that could be misinterpreted as sexuality, right?
Yeah.
In business today, so many people, sex sells, sex sells. Well, not at J. Christoph. You know,
Mm,
Beauty is absolutely. Let's embrace it. Faith in what you're doing, faith in your
mm,
in your Lord and Savior, and let's stick to those values that make an American company, right? We do everything we
mhm,
can to
mhm.
source everything, have all the manufacturing in here. We do import Italian leather for it, because if you want to be the best in the business, you import the
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
And that's okay. And if an Italian leather supplier wants to say, hey, we've got stuff that's just as good or better, if they bring it to the table and I see it and I can agree, then, I'd happy to make bags out of American leather too. But right now, that's where all the industry is. Um, so, it's the biggest thing for me is our company living up to values that you can be proud of purchasing, and I can stand in front of my mom and dad and say, "Hey, this is how we do it." And I don't have
Mhm.
to ever, you know, be ashamed of any of our business practices or anything. And ultimately, I know I'll be judged. And when that day comes, I want, I want the Lord to look at me and say, "Hey, you did it right. Good job."
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah, yeah.
that's how the values I live by with operating our company. Uh, and we're getting ready to release another company that's not in the luxury fashion brand, but we can talk about that on another time. But it's just an opportunity to do. It's got the same mission behind it. It's just
Yeah.
going for a different demographic. Um, and I think it's. Go ahead.
Jared,
Take.
I was gonna ask a question and you're on it, so I appreciate it. I was gonna say, look, luxury often signals exclusivity, right? And how do you keep the door open to empathy and inclusion? And that's how you do it, right? So
So
that's
yeah,
part of
so
it. Go ahead.
that's exactly right. And so I want J. Christoph to be in a very exclusive brand. I want
Yeah.
people to buy it and be like, "Oh my gosh," because all of us need something to strive for, right? All of us, And so imagine you're, a young 20-year-old. I mean, it's
Mhm.
hard to imagine myself as a young 20-year-old girl, but I can imagine a young 20-year-old girl uh, saying, you know what, look at that beautiful bag doing a great mission. I want to work really hard. I want to make good
Yeah.
decisions in my life to where I can afford to be a part of that by buying a J.
Yeah.
Christoph, right? Because it says
Yeah.
something. And that gives everybody a goal to strive for. Now, on the other side of life, I realize that, $3,000 bags are not for everybody. And that's
Mhm.
okay. They shouldn't be for
Mhm.
everybody. Uh, but our next brand that's coming out is for everybody, and all of us can afford it, right? And it's going to
Right,
be an
right.
apparel company. We're making things inside the United States again, but you think
Mhm.
about t-shirts, beanies, jeans, hats,
Yeah.
hoodies, things like that. So where when hey, if people find out about what I'm doing with one company but can't afford it because they're not of those means, no harm or foul. You know what? But they can buy an American made t-shirt that does the same thing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we're going to do, we've got that, and we've got, different inspirational quotes on them and things like that that represent graphics that I think might resonate with people that will resonate with this mission. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the deal. I want to make many opportunities to get the word out about anti-trafficking and what we need to do. It's not something that just happens in the dark. It's not something, it's happening next door, and we all need to be a part of stopping it. So
Yeah. Can you describe a day that you wanted to just quit? Have you ever had that day? And what promise kept you in the fight?
um have I ever had a day that I just wanted to quit? I
Yeah.
can't say that I have. No, I haven't.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
and it goes back to that resilience of, no, we will get this done. We will make this happen. There are days that are harder than others, especially with my flying schedule. I'm an airline pilot by trade, and it's very
Mhm,
difficult
mhm.
to make stuff happen and make meetings happen and around a flying schedule. But without flying, I wouldn't have been able to bootstrap these companies from
Right.
nothing, right? Because one of the
Right.
things that you can imagine, trying to go get investors to invest in a company that's going to give the profit, give a lot of profit away. They want to be paid too, and so I'm not
Yeah.
interested in taking on an investor that doesn't want to put our mission first. And
Right.
I don't take any wages. Everything right now goes into growing the company, building the company, paying for what we've got to pay for, and going to the people we sponsor. Um, and
Okay.
this month I made the decision on our sales that I'm not going to take any profit out of it. I'm going to give it all away
Mm.
this month.
Yeah.
So we'll make zero money as a profitable company this month, but we're going to be able to utilize that to do some real work. And I think
Yeah.
it makes me happy. Makes me
Yeah.
happy. To give it away.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
There's going to
Yeah.
be other days and other times.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned how you want the person who purchases the J.
hmm
Christoph bag to feel empowered, to
hmm
feel like they've contributed to a worthwhile cause, which it
yep.
is. But how do you invite buyers to also be informed advocates and not just owners of a bag?
That's a great question. And so, um, trying to get, that's a choice that everybody has to make, right? Because some people aren't going to be
Mhm,
comfortable
mhm.
being in a social setting talking about necessarily, uh, you know, anti-trafficking, going to a cocktail event, whatever, and bringing up something that's kind of a downer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That'll suck the wind out of a room real quick. Um, so it really has to be up to the individual on what they're comfortable with talking about, and whether or not now we happy to go and be a part of anti-trafficking things as the founder of Jay Christoff. I can go out and advocate to other anti-trafficking um, seminars or whatever that happens to be, but really up to the customer. I want it to be a customer choice, what they're
Yeah.
comfortable with. I mean, the bag says a lot, and it can say enough
Mhm,
too, right?
mhm.
And if somebody says, "Oh, I thought I would have expected you carrying the Chanel, but you're carrying this. Who's this?" And they say, "Oh, it's a Jay Christoff." And then it's a personal conversation to where they just ask, "Oh, well, why would you buy that?" "Oh, well, because I
Exactly.
wanted to be a part of this mission. They do a really good mission," right? It could be something that simple.
Yeah.
And that would be fine. I want it to be whatever the customer wants to say about why they purchased Jay Christoph. Jay Christoph, I want that to be their story, right? Not my story.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to dictate to
I got
anybody,
you.
but you should be saying, what's on your heart
Yeah.
and why'd you buy us? Maybe they bought it
That's
because it looked really cool, and then they found out that there was a mission behind it and it made them feel good. That's great. Let that be their story. But
yeah.
no, there's nothing that I want to push onto people. Well, except handbags.
Yeah. Right. Hey, hey, so I got a serious question now though.
Okay.
Right. And this is to help everyone who's out there listening. And
Uh-huh.
we're all talking about a very, very serious problem with
Right.
trafficking. So How
Yep.
can listeners out there spot potential trafficking indicators and report safely without putting themselves at risk? Are you familiar with that process?
Yeah. So um, obviously, you can use local law enforcement, but there is the human trafficking hotline.org. So you can go visit human trafficking hotline.org, and you can read all about different things. And um, to say that there's one dead giveaway that somebody's being trafficked under 90% of the circumstances is probably not realistic. There are things that you can
Okay.
see, and if you go to and use those resources online on how to spot it and report it, you're going to start to see little things that don't match up. Things to look out for: major events, major sporting events,
Mm,
big, whether it's race cars, whether it's football, big celebrations. Anytime there's a big event, there's going to be the opportunity for more trafficking going on there.
mhm.
Um, so making sure you're with groups, making sure that kids stay with in a group, and people outside of the event know where they are. Uh, you know, having
Yeah.
simple measures for prevention are huge, right? Don't
Right.
and I would encourage young kids to don't if you're in a big event, put your phone away. Don't bury your face in your phone. Look around at your surroundings. That TikTok video isn't that important. You can look at it later. But knowing where you're at, knowing your surroundings, and knowing how to move throughout whatever event you're at, so you can get to someplace, know where the police are located and things like that. Usually they'll have a booth, or they'll have something set up like, hey, this is where law enforcement is for this particular event. But yeah, humantraffickinghotline.org is a great resource, and they've got a number too. It's 1-888-373-7888. So
Okay.
if you see something, you can call that and report it, and they can help guide you too. Um, but no, we look at that stuff and through airports. I'm in the aviation industry, and we train on it now,
Mhm.
and every year to look for certain scenarios and look for certain things. And it really, usually it might be one thing that makes you raise an eyebrow, and then you look for other signs, right?
Mhm.
So just an example is, you see a young child, uh, you know, let's say 12-year-old, 11-year-old, it's quiet, reserved,
Right.
not talking, not
Right.
speaking, and the adult with that child is answering everything for the child. Do you want something to drink? And the adult gives all the answers, and so that would raise an eyebrow, right?
Mhm.
Now it
Mhm.
could mean a couple of things. Could mean the child's not feeling well, child's tired, or it could mean that child's been threatened and is not allowed to talk. So you start to dissect more of the scenario around it and watch and observe. And if more things come up, then you just raise the question, and you say, hey, uh, let me bring somebody that's an expert into this, right? And then that's when
Right.
you'd call the hotline, or we'd use our resources at the airline I'm at, to say, hey, this is our
Yeah.
situation we got. We need somebody to meet the airplane when we land, or whatever. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, um, there it's not just one thing. It's not like you see a van pull up, abduct somebody, and drive off
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
movie. That's not
That's
typically how
obvious,
it
right?
happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's good insight. So, and it's not to, it's a very serious one, but it's sensitive as well because we don't want
mhm,
people jumping and running into everybody else's
that's right.
business, right? It could just be a
That's right.
parent and their kid, right?
Right.
And like you said, the kid's not feeling well, but you look for those secondary and third things that just don't look right. And if it doesn't look right,
Mhm.
don't not pay attention. For you,
Right.
you had the mission in your head, and this is something totally different, but you had the thing where you were told to get into the luxury industry, right? You
Right.
kind of tiptoed around it, right? And then you realize, no, this is something that is my calling.
Right.
So it could be your calling. You are that one person who may be seeing these things. And so you need to understand and look for the second and third things that
Right.
just aren't right and then act. That's the biggest
Yep.
part. than act. So, all right, yeah, I definitely appreciate that. It
Of
is
course.
rampant. I'm in California. I'm in near San Diego, so it's
Mhm.
right on the border. So
Yeah,
it's
no.
it's one of those things that are serious.
Gosh, and that's one of the biggest things that, uh, with all the political upheaval in our country about
Yeah,
this, that, and the other, and people talking about border security, I was sitting there pulling my hair out about, uh, you know, the biggest thing to worry about coming across that border is the trafficking, and it is
yeah,
rampant. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter what political side of the spectrum you're on. We can all get behind stopping that. So let's secure our borders to help kids and stop the trafficking.
yeah.
Period.
I
Dot.
agree.
And if you're
I
not
agree
on
on
board with
that.
that, I don't care what political side of the spectrum you're on. You're wrong. We
Yeah,
can help the
yeah,
kids. You know.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, so let's focus a little bit more on you real quick. And it's a quick
Okay.
question. What do you do every single day that keeps the mission clear and your best work on the table?
Pray.
I was gonna say pray. I could just go by how what we're talking about
Yeah.
this whole
Pray.
conversation. So you keep the Lord in the forefront of everything.
Yeah. A lot of people say put God first. I say put God at the center. Put him at everything.
Yeah,
Have him touch
yeah,
everything. I don't want to pray in the morning and then, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm trying to do something on my own. That's not the way
mm,
it works. He's involved
yeah,
in everything. Like I said, it's his company. I'm just here to execute stuff he asked me to do.
yeah.
And so I pray and I pray and I pray and I pray for
Mhm.
him to guide me, not to make a mistake. And if I make a mistake, make it a small one. So it's a gentle correction, not something that slaps me in the face, you know, because
Yeah, yeah.
as you can imagine, it's not cheap to get into doing this either. So it's
Oh,
everything
I
I
can
got.
imagine. I
Takes
can
everything I got.
imagine. Yeah. Hey, so I appreciate you answering a few of my questions. Thank you so
Sure.
much for opening up. But is there something that we didn't cover today that you'd like to share?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I was just excited to talk to you and see where this conversation went. I knew since we're both vets, we'd probably have some connection there and talk a little bit about that service. But what I want people to know, if there's something that I could share, is you can make a difference. You can make a difference, and it doesn't have to be at J. Christoph. It doesn't have to be buying my products. I'm not saying that, but if you look at me, I went from uh, an Air Force pilot to now starting two different companies and using those companies to push a mission that I think is worthy. Um,
Mhm.
and so when people think, hey, I'm stuck in this, job, or maybe they're not feeling good about the job they're stuck in and they're wanting to make a change, you know, pray on it and make the
Mm,
change. Be quiet. Don't listen to the world around you. That will get you lost every time. You know,
yeah,
Allow there to be peace and quiet in your life so you can listen to what you're supposed to do and then
yeah,
step out on faith. Um, that has been my biggest reward is every time I make a move when I don't know how it's going to go, that's when the doors open. And
yeah,
I fully believe that it's not me, it's just my demonstration of faith and what God's asked me to do, Lee. And
yeah.
some people might think that's ridiculous or whatever, depending on where they are and spiritually, but
Mhm,
I have never had it not work. And every decision I make when I'm sitting there and I'm trying to come up with the resolution, and
mhm,
I'm like,
mhm.
well, to get to this goal, I got to be able to do this, 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 and this. And when I sit there and try to figure out all the thises, instead of just moving forward and going for it and taking that step, it's kind of like in the Indiana Jones movie, The Last Crusade, right? When he took that
Yeah,
step and all
yeah.
of a sudden a stone appeared under his foot. That's what I feel
Yeah,
like sometimes. And it's scary. And it can be uh, nerve wracking. But if you say, you know what, this is where I'm supposed to go and you do it, you'll
yeah.
be amazed at what opens up for you.
You know what? I love football. Jared, I
Hmm.
love football. I'm a diehard Steeler fan. As the NFL and televised NFL has progressed through my life, I've begun to see, and everyone else who watches football on TV, you can see the different camera angles, and you get better camera angles of the action that's happening.
Sure.
Now, I used to sit and I watch, and I'm getting to a point here. I used to watch, and you see a quarterback throw an interception, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're like, where was he throwing it? And Annis was saying, oh, the wide receiver ran the wrong way. Okay, so fast forward. So now you got all these cameras, and now they're behind the play.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I witnessed this, and this is to something that you said earlier, where I think it was Peyton Manning. He threw this ball, and you can see the ball traveling out of his hand to a spot
Uh-huh.
that looks like it's going right to the defender. Like it's an obvious interception. And then at the last second, you see the wide receiver run through, catch the ball. Now, the reason why I say that is because you said you can sit and worry about this and you can worry about that and you can worry about all these things. And while you're doing that, you already have the answer. You already know where you're going. You already know what
Mhm.
you need to do.
Mhm.
Just act. Just act.
That's right.
Just throw. Right? You're there. You're already
That's right.
there. Don't worry about, you said, don't worry about all the what you see there. That guy standing there, he may intercept it, but you know, you have faith that that wide receiver is going to run the way
That's
that
right.
you've practiced. You're there, right?
That's right.
So my point in that is, if you wait, if you're too early, if you wait too late, that
Mhm.
window's going to close and that interception is going to happen. That opportunity is going to be
Right.
gone. That window has closed, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, act. Go ahead. I just wanted to reiterate that. That was
Yeah,
one of
no,
the
that
greatest things I saw because I couldn't understand, like, where are
yeah,
they throwing it? And then you see it. Now you have this angle, and now I have visuals. And part of me seeing it is like you telling that as well. You know, people who are
right.
telling these stories, people who are mentoring other people, and
Yeah.
say you got to act. Don't
Now
just stay stuck. Go ahead.
now imagine Lee, imagine the one catching that ball that said, "I'm gonna be there at the right place," is God, is your wide receiver,
Mm,
or God is your
exactly.
quarterback, making sure that ball is there at the right time, and you've got to go catch it. That's probably a better analogy because wide quarterbacks kind of lead the team. Um,
Yeah.
so maybe God is your quarterback and you're the wide receiver, and you've got to be in that right place because he's throwing you this stuff, right? So
Hmm.
that's exactly right, though. And since I brought up, the my faith and my spiritual guidance in all of this, I want people to understand it's not just a one-time good deal. Like when you're part of a football team, just like you talked about, you got to be part of the team every time and every
Hmm.
day. Steelers
Hmm.
don't go after a game and quit being a Steeler, right?
Yeah.
They're a Steeler all week long until they play on Sunday or Monday, right? So
Yeah.
my point being is, my faith is Christian. That's why I say I put him at the center of everything because I'm always on his team and I'm going to do this, right? It can't
Right.
just be like, well, I prayed for it this one time and I heard that guy Jared from Christoff say that if you pray and you take a step, well, you can't, if you haven't been in faith and you haven't, given yourself to Christ and then expect one day, like, I'm going to go make this pray. And if this doesn't work out, then that's all, that's not the way it works. It's just like that
Yeah.
football team. They're their
Yeah.
team all week long, 24 hours a
Yeah.
day. And they might go home and eat a meal to, buy with their family. But when that phone rings and they say, "Hey, we're gonna have, an extra practice because you guys did terrible," or whatever, guess what? They show up. They don't not
Yeah.
show up. And that's the same way
Yeah.
for us as Christians, right? We have to show up and we have to
Yeah.
do our part. And so
Agree.
my point to that, it's just not a one-time ask and I'll try it out. It's a life. It's a lifestyle,
Mm,
and you give everything and then you watch those things happen. So,
yeah. Awesome. Hey, thank you so much. So where can the listeners go to learn more about you, Jay Christoph, connect with your work, the new company that you have coming soon? Where can we
yeah.
find out more?
So, jchristoff.com, that's jchristopph.com. It's just like Christopher, but cut off the ER.
Hmm.
jchristoff.com. You can link up with us on our social media. And I'll tell you, if you make a comment on any of our Instagram stuff, it is me answering you. So I'm happy to engage with people there and talk to people. I try to make a point every week to get in and go through comments and talk to people and, if they comment us on a comment or, compliment us on a bag, I, kind of let them know, we're a really small team right now, but we're working hard, and we want to make a difference in people's lives. And I think we can do that. But yeah, jchristoff.com. Any of the links below to, we have Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest. Come check us out. And, if you want to talk to me, hit me up on Instagram. I'll make sure I'd say something. So.
Man, hey, today we heard how discipline, craftsmanship, and purpose can coexist, how a pilot's precision became a brand that funds real world rescue and rehabilitation. And Jared, I just want to thank you for your candor, for your service, and for showing that elegance and empathy can live in the same product. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate being on.
If this conversation helped you out there see your own mission more clearly, take one step today. Do your best and keep going. And don't forget, subscribe and tune in to Hindsight the Podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. I'll see you soon. Bye.
That's Hindsight.